Reflexive pronouns in Hebrew are used when the subject and object of a sentence are the same person. In English, reflexive pronouns are myself, yourself, himself, herself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves, and they can be used separately across many words. In Hebrew, instead of having reflexive pronouns, the language often uses prepositional phrases, and while verbs can carry reflexive meaning, we can use emphatic reflexive pronouns, using the word etzem. Etzem, literally meaning an object of a sentence, plus a suffix. When using this pattern, etzem plus a suffix, the subject and object of a sentence will be the same person. So grammatically, the structure uses prepositional phrases that would act as emphatic reflexive pronouns. In my previous videos, I explained how Hebrew suffixes are universal across many prepositions, and now we can further see how suffixes can be used with etzem to form emphatic reflexive pronouns. So, this is what they look like, considering that the Niqqud will change in some of them. Atzmi, atzmi, myself. Atzmecha, atzmecha, yourself, masculine. Atzmech, atzmech, yourself, feminine. Atzmo, atzmo, himself. Atzma, atzma, herself. Atzmenu, atzmenu, ourselves. Atzmechem, atzmechem, yourselves, masculine. Atzmechen, atzmechen, yourselves, feminine. Atzmam, atzmam, themselves, masculine. Atzman, atzman, themselves, feminine. You can see how the suffixes from before are attached to the end of etzem, and the pronouns in the first person, atzmi and atzmenu, are the only ones that do not have gender. So the suffixes help in knowing reflexive pronouns in Hebrew. Before we see how they're used in context, it's important to know that such forms are often used after prepositions, like le, meaning to or for, al, meaning about or of, and im, meaning with. Such prepositions are common with reflexive pronouns, and you may even find more, considering that in spoken Hebrew, people rely on reflexive verbs and can omit a reflexive pronoun unless they want to emphasize something. In other words, Hebrew speakers often use reflexive verbs instead of pronouns, although you can still use the pronouns. Now, let's see examples with every pronoun. אני עושה את זה לעצמי. אני עושה את זה לעצמי. I, masculine, do this to myself. In this phrase, the verb conjugation indicates that the subject is masculine, so we can assume that the pronoun refers to someone masculine. אתה רואה את עצמך במראה. אתה רואה את עצמך במראה. Do you see yourself in the mirror, masculine? את גאה בעצמך. את גאה בעצמך. Are you proud of yourself, feminine? הוא מדבר עם עצמו. הוא מדבר עם עצמו. He speaks with himself. היא מאוהבת בעצמה. היא מאוהבת בעצמה. She is in love with herself. אנחנו צריכים לשמור על עצמנו. אנחנו צריכים לשמור על עצמנו. We, masculine, need to take care of ourselves. In this phrase, the verb conjugation indicates that the subject is masculine. אתם מאשימים את עצמכם. אתם מאשימים את עצמכם. Y'all blame yourselves, masculine. אתן מאשימות את עצמכן. אתן מאשימות את עצמכן. Y'all blame yourselves, feminine. In this case, the sentence would work only if all subjects were feminine, which is very rare to say. If a lot of subjects are feminine and only a few are masculine, the masculine form is used. So this is the form that's better to say in spoken Hebrew. הם רואים את עצמם. הם רואים את עצמם. They see themselves, masculine. הן רואות את עצמן. הן רואות את עצמן. They see themselves, feminine. In this case, the use of the feminine reflexive pronoun is rare, so most of the time, you will rely on the masculine form. Overall, this is how Hebrew reflexive pronouns work in context, but other simpler concepts should be known. For instance, some reflexive phrases can imply reflexivity in certain contexts with prepositions, although they will not be used in English, like the phrase הוא פוגע בעצמו. הוא פוגע בעצמו. He hurts himself. Because reflexivity can be constructed with prepositions, sometimes they do not need a reflexive pronoun, and thus it's added using a preposition plus a reflexive pronoun. In this case, בעצמו. בעצמו. Additionally, it's possible to hear reflexive phrases that emphasize autonomy or involve something personal, like saying, הוא עושה את זה לעצמו. הוא עושה את זה לעצמו. He does this to himself. By saying such a sentence, we clarify that the subject, he, didn't do it to someone else. He did it to himself. לעצמו. At last, one linguistic note should be made about reflexive pronouns. While a word like עצמי means myself, linguistically, it's not a pronoun, but a noun meaning self with a suffix. That's why it changes form depending on gender and number, and thus, this construction is regular and can even be combined with other expressions, like saying, הוא שואל את עצמו שאלות. הוא שואל את עצמו שאלות. He asks himself questions. In conclusion, this is how reflexive pronouns fully work in Hebrew.